Hey guys, Frightener22 here, and welcome back to another Cinema Sickness Daily Servings review. Today's film choice is going to allow me to get back to reviewing my favorite genre of films of all time, and definitely the one genre that most fellow YouTubers probably familiarize themselves the best with my channel. So we're going to take a look at one of my favorite horror films of all time, 1988's Child's Play. This film was directed by Tom Holland, who's also responsible for the 1985 vampire classic Fright Night, as well as the 1996 Stephen King adaptation Thinner. This film stars the likes of Catherine Hicks, Chris Sarandon, Alex Vincent, and of course Brad Dourif playing Charles Lee Ray and providing the voice of Chucky, the killer doll. Now this film focuses on a young 6-year-old boy named Andy, who's played by Alex Vincent, who's obsessed with a good guy doll, and that's all he wants for his birthday. So luckily his mother, who's played by Catherine Hicks, surprises him with one that she gets from a bum peddler in the back of where she works for a cheap deal. But little does she know that the doll has been possessed by the Lakeshore Strangler, Charles Lee Ray. And slowly but surely, weird things start happening, murders start happening to people close to Andy and his mother, and it isn't until a detective, who's played by Chris Sarandon, enters the picture and tries to figure out whether or not this kid's telling the truth, or if the mother and the kid are just crazy. Now, I grew up with this film just so much. I mean, this was just, like, heavily rented just to no end as a kid during the VHS boom for me. I mean, I rented Child's Play so many friggin' times, as well as its sequels, Child's Play 2 and 3 at the time. I was just renting those so much. I grew up with Chucky, and just everything about it I loved. I even went so far to be, sleeping with a Child's Play doll that my parents had won me at, like the boardwalk in New Jersey. So I was really, really into Chucky, and it took probably a few years after me being really into it for me to, because I saw it at a really, really young age, but it probably took a year or two after that I was really into it for me to, like, understand and grasp the full concept of what the film was, because probably as a young kid, I probably viewed it as just humorous, as, like, a doll that's doing these, crazy things and whatnot, but as time set in and it sunk in, I really started to get creeped out by the fact that I was sleeping with this doll, and I, like, demanded that my dad throw it away in a dumpster, which he did. So, obviously, Child's Play is a film that's been with me since early on in childhood, and still to this day, I love it incredibly. It's just a classic film in the genre. The one thing that I definitely love about this, and I think it's, it's been so long forgotten because the later sequels have definitely gone more of a comedic route with it, which is okay. I mean, I thought Bride of Chucky was a superb sequel, and, although Seed of Chucky I thought was pretty bad, it kind of took the comedy a little too far to the point where it wasn't even really that funny anymore. But, a lot of people forget just how atmospheric and suspenseful and mysterious the first Child's Play is. Sitting down and watching it today on Blu-ray really reminded me just how great and just well staged this film is. I mean, that's really the, the one thing that the sequels really just kind of left off in the dust. They kind of just chose to go with more direct murders and more, scares and whatnot, and it definitely works. I mean, I think the sequels are definitely great in their own respects going that route, but the first one just has so much more going for it with the whole less is more quality and just kind of leaving you in suspense. I mean, truth be told, in this film, the first half hour, you don't even see Chucky himself doing anything. It's all, POV shots and just, staged in very elaborate ways where you're not even too sure if Chucky is a real living doll doing these killings, or if it's maybe just Andy and he's just crazy, and maybe that's the whole point of the film. So the first 30 to 45 minutes of the film are very suspenseful, and they kind of set the stage to let people's minds thinking, like, well, maybe this isn't as cut and dry a horror film as we really think. Of course, around like the hour mark, it's obviously revealed that Chucky is moving, and, you kind of see him finally emerge and go into full action, attacking Andy's mother. So, that the whole, but they really kind of drag it out for a while, considering, the time period that this was, debuted, which is the late 80s. I mean, this was around the time that there was just floods and floods of Halloween sequels, and Elm Street sequels, and Friday sequels, and it was all the slasher craze, and, you know, a kill every 10 minutes and whatnot. So this film is definitely more repressed in that sense, and it just kind of sets the stage for a very mysterious and suspenseful film, and I think it's excellent at that. It's so well crafted. I mean, you really don't know if Chucky's alive until they just show it to you right on the screen, you know, in real time. Another thing that I really like about this, for, you know, especially the time period that this film is being made in, the technology and what they accomplished with the Chucky doll using, you know, animatronics, and then using a Chucky stunt double in certain scenes is really great. I mean, it just looks so seamless, but what they accomplished in this film, I think, still stands up very tall today. I think that, like, you know, these guys, these, you know, special effects artists did a wonderful job in crafting you know, a plastic latex doll and making him look believable and kind of moving with this really great fluidity, as if, you know, he was a real, you know, human being trapped in this doll that's committing all these heinous murders. So it's a really, you know, I definitely tip my hat off to, you know, the special effects supervisors on this film, because they did a wonderful job, and it definitely still holds up to this day. You know, as much as, you know, horror fans are gonna bitch and whine about the endless remakes that's been going on over the past few years of practically every popular horror franchise, I think by this point, we know it's inevitable that, you know, the final few that have kind of not been remade are going to get remade. I mean, the original screenwriter of Child's Play, Don Mancini, who has actually contributed to every screenplay, as well as making his directorial debut on Seed of Chucky, has stated in numerous interviews that they're gearing up to be doing a remake, and he's going to be attached to, I believe, definitely writing it, but I'm not sure. I think he may even be directing it, too. So I would think probably within, like, the next 1 to 3 years, we'll be seeing a remake of Child's Play. But, you know, this film, if remade, can be done really well. I mean, you can totally play with the whole voodoo aspect that Charles Lee Ray, you know, uses to kind of get warped into the good guy play doll. So there's that whole voodoo angle that you can do, and, you know, there's just so much that if they just kind of hold back and don't go for the obvious of, like, show this killer doll, like, within the first 5 minutes of that transformation, it can be a really good way to make Chucky scary and darker yet again. I mean, I think that there's just a whole slew of things that they can do to really make a remake of this film really, really good. And I think with the original screenwriter and creator of Chucky, you know, on scripting duties and hopefully directing, then I think that it's going to be in good hands for sure. But overall, I mean, Child's Play, hands down, one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and definitely the best killer doll film. I know it's a very, you know, small kind of subgenre within horror, but there's definitely a fair amount of killer doll films, but none of them compare to Child's Play. The original Child's Play is the best. The sequels hold up pretty well. You know, some are goofier than others, but overall, they're fun, but nothing compares to the suspense and the atmosphere and just, you know, the overall darkness and, you know, scary nature of Chucky in this film that really drives it home and makes this film a horror classic. So if you've never seen this film, that's a shame, because it's hands down one of the best horror movies from the late 80s, so definitely get around to checking this film out. It's an absolute classic. Well, guys, thanks again for tuning in to one of my Cinema Sickness Daily Servings reviews, and I'll catch you tomorrow in another one. Thanks again for tuning in. This is Frightener22.